This is a story about quiet endurance, the kind that stays steady long after hope stops being loud. Kevin Baker paused with the door half open, the smell of sawdust still clinging to his jacket. The workshop lights hummed behind him, unchanged, patient, as if they would wait forever. His hands ached, not sharply, just enough to remind him that time kept its own ledger. He shut the door gently. Outside, the late afternoon in San Jose was cooler than expected. The sky held that pale color that made everything feel unfinished. Kevin stood for a moment longer than necessary, keys in his hand, listening to the quiet that followed a full day of work. It felt heavier than it should have. He had built things his whole life. Not quickly, not loudly. He learned early that what rewarded patience more than force. Measure twice, cut once. Accept that mistakes showed, no matter how carefully you hid them. At 68, the routine had worn smooth. Up before dawn, coffee strong enough to steady the hands. A lunch he often forgot to eat. Evenings spent fixing small things around the house because unfinished edges bothered him more than fatigue. What bothered him more, lately, was the thought he never said out loud. Was this all it would ever be? Not failure. He'd avoided that. But not recognition either. Just a long, narrow road with no markers to say it mattered. At home, Lori had left the porch light on. Inside, Luna curled on the back of the couch, lifting her head as Kevin came in. The house smelled faintly of wood polish and something warm baking. Comfort built from repetition. Lori asked how his day was. Fine, he said, and meant it. Later, lying awake, Kevin stared at the ceiling fan turning slowly above him. Each rotation felt identical to the last. He wondered, not for the first time, if staying had been strength or simply habit. He didn't have an answer yet, but in the quiet, something else lingered. Not regret, not pride, just the sense that the story wasn't finished, even if it had taken its time to say so. The years didn't announce themselves as they passed. They stacked quietly, like boards leaning against a wall, each one waiting for its turn to be used. Kevin's work followed the same rhythm. Small jobs, careful jobs, repairs no one noticed unless they failed. He took pride in corners that lined up cleanly, joints that held without complaint. People trusted him with their homes, even if they didn't remember his name afterward. Johnny used to sit on a stool in the workshop when he was young, swinging his legs, asking why Kevin never rushed. Because rushing makes you sloppy, Kevin had said. And sloppy shows. Johnny grew up, moved out, built a life that didn't smell like wood glue and dust. Kevin was proud of him, quietly so, but sometimes wondered if his son saw the years Kevin had spent saying no to easier paths. There had been chances. A contractor once offered him more money if he'd cut corners. Another time, a friend suggested selling out, retiring early, letting someone else handle the work. Kevin listened. He always did. Then he went back to his bench. Some evenings, exhaustion hit him before he reached the driveway. His hands would rest on the steering wheel longer than necessary, as if asking permission to let go. Inside the house, Lori moved gently through routines she'd perfected over decades. Dinner warming, lights set just right, Luna circling ankles like time itself. Maybe you should slow down, Lori said one night, not pushing. Never pushing. Kevin nodded. He thought slowing down might feel like quitting. Faith, for him, had never been loud. It lived in repetition, in showing up, in believing that careful work mattered even if the world moved faster around him. Still, some nights, doubt slipped in like a draft through an old window. What if patience wasn't wisdom? He wondered, but fear wearing a better name. He didn't say it out loud. He fixed the window instead. The next morning, he was back in the workshop before sunrise, hands steady, heart uncertain, but present. That had always been his way. The call came on a Tuesday morning, thin and unremarkable, the kind of morning that rarely carried news. Kevin was sanding the edge of a cabinet door when his phone vibrated in his pocket. He almost ignored it. Deadlines mattered. Clean lines mattered. Interruptions usually didn't. The voice on the other end hesitated before speaking his name. as if unsure it belonged to someone who still answered calls like this. "We were given your number," the man said, "by someone who said you don't rush." Kevin stopped sanding. The project was unusual. Restoring interior woodwork in a small public building slated for historical designation. The budget wasn't extravagant, but the expectations were precise. Every mistake would be visible, every choice permanent. Kevin listened more than he spoke. When he hung up, the workshop felt different. Not louder, not brighter, just aware, as if the years leaning against the wall had shifted slightly. Lori noticed that night. "You're thinking again," she said. Kevin smiled faintly. "This time it's different." She didn't ask how. The work demanded everything he still had. Long hours, careful hands, decisions that couldn't be undone. Kevin moved slowly, deliberately, letting the building reveal what it needed rather than imposing his will. Inspectors came, then others. Questions followed. Someone took photos. Someone else asked who had taught him to work like this. "No one," Kevin said. "You just listened long enough." Recognition didn't arrive as applause. It came as trust, as referrals, as calls that didn't question his pace, only his availability. Johnny visited the site one afternoon, watching his father work in silence. "I didn't know," he said finally. Kevin didn't ask what he meant. When the project ended, there was no ceremony, just a handshake that carried weight, a check that arrived on time, another call before the week was out. For the first time in years, Kevin felt something unfamiliar, not excitement, not relief. Confirmation that the years hadn't been circling emptiness, that patience had been shaping something real, even when no one was looking. At home that evening, Luna curled against his leg. Lori leaned into his shoulder. Kevin let himself sit without planning the next day. The ceiling fan turned slowly overhead. This time, the repetition felt different, like an answer that had taken its time to arrive. The work changed his days before it changed his life. Kevin didn't stop being tired. His hands still ached in the evenings. The difference was subtle. Calls that respected his pace, projects that asked for judgment instead of speed. People didn't ask him to hurry anymore. They asked him to decide. He turned down more jobs than he accepted. That surprised him. Saying no had always felt dangerous, like tempting fate. Now it felt honest. "Is this what it's supposed to feel like?" he asked Lori one night. She thought for a moment. "I think this is what it feels like when effort finally catches up with time." The recognition spread quietly. A mention in a local paper he didn't read until Johnny sent him a photo. A recommendation passed from one architect to another. Kevin never advertised. He never raised his voice about what he did. He just kept showing up. At a community meeting about the restored building, someone thanked him publicly. Kevin stood when they said his name, nodded once, and sat back down. Applause followed, brief and polite. It embarrassed him more than he expected. Later, Johnny said, "You could have had this years ago, you know, if you'd pushed." Kevin shook his head. It wouldn't have been this. The money helped. It took pressure off, allowed small freedoms Kevin hadn't imagined asking for. Shorter days, better tools, a trip Lori had quietly wanted for years. But what stayed with him wasn't financial. It was the way people listened when he spoke now. The way younger craftsmen asked questions and waited for the answer. The way his own doubts softened, not gone, but quieter. Kevin realized something that unsettled him. If this had happened earlier, he might not have known what to do with it. The years of obscurity hadn't been wasted. They had shaped the kind of man who could carry recognition without letting it change him. That understanding settled in slowly, like a joint fitting cleanly into place, finally ready. Kevin finished his last job of the week before sunset. He swept the workshop floor carefully, gathering the fine dust into neat lines, the way he always had. Nothing about the motion was rushed. Nothing needed to be. When he turned off the lights, he paused, listening to the quiet settle back into place. At home, Lori had set 2 mugs on the table. Luna claimed the warm spot by the window, tail flicking once in acknowledgement as Kevin sat down. Outside, the evening cooled the air, softening the edges of the day. "You could stop earlier tomorrow," Lori said. Not a suggestion, an understanding. Kevin nodded. I think I will. Johnny called later, asking for advice on a project of his own. Kevin listened, chose his words carefully, the way he always had. After the call, Kevin stood for a moment in the doorway, looking at the house, at what had been built not by one decision, but by thousands of quiet ones made without certainty they would ever add up. He thought back to the question that used to visit him at night. Was staying strength or just habit? Now he knew. Staying had been faith, practiced daily. Not blind, not loud, just steady enough to last until life was ready to answer. Kevin turned off the porch light and went inside. The road hadn't been short, but it had been true.